We talk about desire. I was, I was thrown to so many different things and connotations in colloquial sense, in philosophical sense of the term, and of course in relation to art and aesthetics. And instead of doing this summing up of like a Wikipedia entry where what desire means and had meant throughout the history, at least in Western civilization, so like it's heavily oriented in our language that we think through Western concepts. That's another problem. But when I was thinking through desire and how I look at our emotional selves in relation to our choices in how we live and how we think and make and love art and in our practices, I really thought about how oppressive desire is from my feminist point of view, and I did not even want to prepare something that would be my refutation of patriarchal sexual desire of normative, heteronormative. It's obvious something that I am not interested in discussing, but this is the model of desire that governs the gaze. It governs the acquiring power of individuals that so much plays in art. And then again, it's just thinking about art, Graciela said, what are the art practices that inspire your thinking? And I thought that was the clue. It's really not my thinking that needs, that then brings an illustration. I think art inspires the thinking and my thinking through this concept of longing as a process.
I'm from Darien, Connecticut, which is the whitest, most Wall Street, most suburban la-la land on the planet. Shopping was one of the main things that we did. Shopping and tennis and sailing. And that was about it. We didn't have any values, and it was just, so the desire was all about you had to look good, and you had to network well and look good, and the appearance, that was it. There was nothing else. So acting out this sort of circular reason, one moves around and around the large cakes, drawn into the mirrors and enticing layers of encrusted stuff. And then the same thing, shoppers are lured into the buying loop by the cunning, these are De Boer's ideas, of the self-perpetuating commodity. At siren call of more, just as we've been discussing, desire is always unsatiated. So it's cellophane promise to raise one in the similarly glazed self-esteem of one's social circle. So anyway, I'm a writer. I'm not good at acting. I'm totally phobic in front of a camera, so I'm just reading a little bit.
You're fine.
I'll talk more, without notes, maybe later.
I want to know how you make your cakes.
I have a show or I have a reason to make something, and then I think, oh, I gotta make something, and I think, oh, what can I make? They're basically the same kind of shopping modalities, like stacking and displaying and arranging and patterning and that kind of stuff. So I figured if I was deadly honest about this stuff, which is so much in the culture, it may not be in New York, but where I'm from in suburbia, it's there. And did that answer your question about the...
So the cakes are made out of these objects that you find shopping?
They're plexi boxes that I had made, and I found vinyl bags to put on top of the boxes, and then I got shot glasses and I stacked those up, and then I also have 10 million drawers of plastic things. Okay. I have the pink things and the pink hair accessories, the pink jaw clips, the purple ornaments, so they're all color coordinated. And so I also have this repertoire of well, what's like, try this, just the idea of just using every material that's not art. So they're really more crafty than...
You say that like it's a bad thing.
No, I want them to be really low. I got kind of tired of stuff that really looked art. And I think craft, so again, there's always this strange thing where I'm being my depraved, white, guilted self, and then I find heart. So in other words, I'm going back and forth with the paradox of things where desire, you know, sometimes I want to make something, I want to feel the texture, and then you get the heart back in it. And so there are just, a lot of layers that turn up just from the reading the metaphors of the materials.
Well, this is the thing that's interesting for me. There's this idea of this like desire for accessibility that I'm not sure. It's something I think a lot about with my work, just thinking about how to make the work in a way that allows as many different kinds of people to enjoy it as possible. And for you, I guess I'm just curious to know more about why you sort of talk about things in that way. Or
there's a lot of kind of guilt.
okay.
There's I'm in a soul-searching process right now as to what's under the cake, what's under the tables. Footstools and vanity benches are my main structures. I started with femininity, and how I got a footstool, which is a self-deprecating object, was I was in graduate school and I thought about, I want to make something that's in the feet, like high art and low art, and high art is men's art and low art is women's art, crafts and fashion and home decoration is women. So I said, let me find something in the home that's really low and stupid, and the lowest thing in the house would be the footstool, and then I'm going to make high art out of it and prove I can make amazing art. There's that kind of high-low thing going on. And then lately, I mean, my head is all in the Dakota pipeline, Dakota Access Pipeline protest. I'm also animals, and my work that's all in plastic, and the pipeline is how you make plastic. And so I'm pretty much tied up in knots. And you know, again, I just like to be honest about my emotions. And so I'm thinking about how am I going to parlay this work that I've done in plastic and also deal with some of the issues that are important. I don't know if I'm answering your question.
Can I just say something? As I was listening to you talk, why I wanted to know more about the cake is that cake and desire make perfect sense to moi.
Or it's related to guilt, you know? Like you are not supposed to eat things that you desire because they're not good for you, right? So when your rational brain, this is like, you know, not like having this, you know, art as a inspiration. I'm just thinking that, you know, it's always this a friction between rational and emotional brain. So of course we desire that fulfillment, that the instant gratification, that is physiological, and then if you can, you know, wait for your rationality to kick in, then it's like, oh no, it's not good for me because I know about cholesterol, diabetes, and so on, and I will not, you know, there is a reason why I would abstain for all these things that make me, like, chemically feel that, you know, burst of sensation that is fulfillment, right? So maybe that's the friction that goes into then translation into visual. You know, like what you were talking about, we are looking at then we will look at your work. You know, it's like all the senses of the surfaces, of the shiny surface and like vivid colors about that. You know, sweetness, right? It's like, and then you feeling also the, you know, pull from it. Every kind of art, I can just think of, you know, artists dealing with surfaces. The seductive surfaces are basically inspired. Just think about, you know, Marilyn Minter's surfaces. You know, they're all about, you know, that seduction. I don't know. I'm just, you know, riffing on this because it's obviously there, you know.
I think you're correct, actually, that desire, especially for women, gets tied up, and probably for women artists too, I'm not sure, with guilt a lot, right? And one of the things I found as I interviewed women first I tried talking to women about their sexual desires. Wasn't happening, you know. They felt it was intrusive, and the minute it became blind, where I wouldn't know who they are, then I got this, a lot of women telling me their sexual desires, and it was a lot of it was tinged with guilt. I feel guilty for having these desires. I feel guilty for wanting this pleasure, for feeling this pleasure. And I think it's interesting that, even with cake, right, and other desires, there is a sense of guilt that is attached to whatever desire it may be that,
There's also something, I feel like we can talk about two different desires right now. Like one of is like the seduction, it's the cake and the sweetness and desire, and the other one is the desire of absence.
Yeah.
Something that is unattainable, like you said. There's absence, there's like transient going away. So there's those two different ways of looking at the desires. I'm just wondering if they have like any connections or they can go separately.
Well, I feel like,
same?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like talking about this idea of guilt as it relates to desire kind of cuts to the sort of core of that. I can't think about anything that I desire without feeling some sense of guilt about it, Because it's like
That's so interesting.
Well, I just feel like everything that I want are things that I shouldn't have, or things that I know that are bad for me. Like, I don't ever desire vegetables or or like an extra 30 minutes at the gym or something. It's always like
that's interesting.
No, I mean, I always like want like that piece of chocolate cake, or that extra 5 minutes by myself, or maybe even that extra like 5 minutes talking to somebody that like I really care about. And it's something that I haven't thought a lot about, but it's interesting to think that, maybe they are more of a box set than I realize, desire and guilt.
So when you said absence, I'm like, this is so interesting. You're like transgressing the basic desire of artists to, stay.
Yeah.
And go beyond. So like, or am I projecting?
No, I think you're...
Performers are very much, very much criticized for that desire to, as I said, be present.
To sort of be
Artist
center stage.
is present and wants to stay present,
Yeah, I don't know if I've ever felt that with the work that I make, and especially thinking about the performance. Like, all the performance work that I do is about sort of serving as like a surrogate for these other things, these other ideas. Like, in my mind, I'm always sort of taking on a collective consciousness of a group of people. There's a way for me to sort of be in the moment and think about the self, but it's the performance work has never been about like sort of autobiography or about showmanship in that way. There's like these three sort of distinct practices that I have going right now. There's the performance work, the sculptural work that I do. I do a lot of work made out of vectors using various machines. So I do a lot of like laser cut plexiglass, things like that. And then there's this contract writing that happens.
Contract writing.
Contract writing, yeah. This past spring, I did this art and law program where a bunch of artists and arts administrators, we would get together and we'd read legal cases and we'd talk about the law as artists.
How that's really filled with desire.
Yes, because it's always about, this is what I want, this is what I'm willing to give up to have this thing. What are you willing to give up to give me this thing, or what do you want from me in order to relinquish this thing? So it's something that I'm very interested in, this idea of being able to sort of like confine and encapsulate your desire. And I've only made one, I shouldn't say that. I mean, I've made one sort of important one right now, but I'm interested in sort of seeing how far that can go because right now it's kind of cutting to the core of this topic that we're thinking about today, which is just like wanting the thing and maybe feeling guilty about wanting the thing, but then not feeling guilty enough to stop wanting the thing. And then it's maybe it is like about this sort of stages of mourning or death in a way. There's compromising, there's acceptance, there's all these things that sort of go into this act of like, you know, seeing that thing and visualizing yourself being able to have it. I'm not sure where this is going, but there's something.
I'm just fascinated that a contract can be an object of desire, right? And,
well, we need art to be transgressive.
Yeah.
I think, you know, from what I heard, and I don't know your practices, and it's like it's really, you know, not easy to talk about, you know, what you're working on without us, you know, understanding and seeing the work. But what I would like to kind of follow here is this transgressiveness, or your acknowledgement that your desires, you know, that you embrace their transgressiveness. You know, like I desire the women to speak about their
sexual desires
that are so much related to imagination. They're very much related to imagination, as artists are, you know, at least they should be free to imagine, and that's where desire can rule, right? That's the world when desire rules in imagination. There are no feeling of guilt. There is no, laws, right? Like, and then when you mention how you envision that within the context of art, or the same goes with you spoke about, you know, this specific case of guilt and desire and your own identity and speaking for it. I think that's the most interesting thing that art is carving constantly in this process, carving the spaces. I really, you triggered me to think now, especially when you said, like, you know, how whatever the practice that you, or like, you know, through work, through examination of things or experimentation, or you come to something that you did not, it wasn't like previously charted, you know, like when you ask women and they don't talk and then they talk, you arrive somewhere. And I thought that's so gratifying, or, you know, like, or even if you hit the wall, that's something that, you know, that propels desiring. And anyways, but I think that, you know, when you talked about, you know, you mentioned this kind of desire for knowledge and cognition, and we kind of like, we left that aside because it's all about, you know, like different kinds of desire, but maybe we should go back to that also.
And also, your work seems to have relate to absence. It's really interesting.
It's just something that is like going away. So I think that's why we have the desire here that maybe, like I always categorize, but we have the desire here that you can just grasp it and take it and maybe compromise to have it in your hand, or you can take a loan and you get it, or there is a desire that is something beyond, and it's desire that becomes a process, and that's why like you said, we start working on something, but we end up with something else. You start questioning the woman, so you're working on your performance, and you end up somewhere else, because the desire maybe for artists maybe is the process itself, is the process of getting, or like understand something. It's knowing more that we know already, or we are able to. So there's this curiosity that I see desire as the force that gets me there. And it's a childish desire in a way, because I know I'm not gonna understand it.
One woman said it best. She said, "You don't understand, desire is mine." Right? And political works are yours. Why aren't you doing police brutality? Right? And I thought, oh, okay. Right? Oh, okay. Right? You know, and so it was touching all sorts of nerves, right?
But there is a lot of, I mean, for me, that would be like the priggishness. Like, it's just in the genes, and it's just so hard to, so, I mean, I think that it's complicated. It's a big web, again, of all these different characters, and just like desire, I mean, who knew that this is a kaleidoscope of of his shoes. I mean, I thought, oh, desire, that's easy. I started writing, and I'm like, I'm writing for 4 days straight, going, this is pretty big.
It's huge. And I like the fact that, you know, it's like everybody's touching it from different places. It's huge. But I have to say, though, that there's still some underlying forces at work, right? And we see this. We just saw it play out fully in the election that we just went through, right? At the root of that, to understand that vote, is desire. And whenever we try to have these discussions, then it's like, oh, no, you know, it's getting too political and whatnot. Either we're going to have these discussions or we're not. Desire is a hot topic, and it's political, and it explains to me a lot of what we're seeing.
I mean, I would even go a step further and to say that it's really about this hierarchy of desires. It's like I desire to preserve this sense of self that keeps me in control, in charge, narrating the story above, you know, my desire to be seen as desirable or equal to some other group or something like that.
Well, that was beautifully stated. Wow. That's the, you know, the quote there from the New York Times.
You know, it's like this. It's like, and going back to what you're doing with the cakes, it's about this desire to be desired, to be the thing that's desired, to be the standard, to be the default, to be.
But there's the other thing what you were also saying, like there's the frontal desire to be desired, and there's this desire what your the woman that you asked said, like, this is mine, that's my private. So there are the ongoing roots. So there are two like different desires that we are able to say, and then the ones that we don't want to reveal, they they are not longer desires. We say them out loud. Like out
Why
loud.
not? Why?
Well, because they lose. I don't know. They lose something. They're still being desired. Like I revealed it. I revealed certain truth. You know, that may be secret. There is desire, and if I share,
I can desire. I can say I desire that, and it still be a desire.
No,
but what is like something like the sexual desire that your I'm just like thinking about your the woman that you work with, like she said, that's mine. Maybe for her it would be something that if she said it like out loud or share with it, it will lose something. Yeah. It will lose like the sense of like that's mine. Like I desire the space that is only mine and nobody can get it. And
I wish that's what she was saying, but that wasn't my sense of it. You know, she was saying there are lanes and you're moving over into my lane. It was my sense of it. I just want to say one thing. The number one female sexual desire, people, is to be desired.
I'm aware.
Which I thought was so interesting, because men's desires are tied up with pleasure. You know, I will have so much pleasure. I will, you know, this will feel so good, right?
Some men want to be desired.
For women, it's about I know I'm hotter than you. I just know I'm hotter than you. Right?
Well, this goes back to what you were saying about. You know, revealing the desire, sort of getting in the way of obtaining the thing. I think about like, you know, like Black Friday, where everyone's in the store and everyone's rushing to get the thing. If I let the person next to me know that I want that thing, they're just going to try and snatch it first. There's like an impulse there that I find really sort of interesting, that like by revealing the desire, you're giving other people the power to like take that thing from you. So there is something to be said about keeping your desires to yourself as a means of like getting to the thing.
But what about when it's your desire for yourself?
That's always a secret. I don't know.
No,
I mean,
why can't you speak that aloud?
Me personally, I have a very hard time doing that. I'm always convinced that if I speak my desires, someone will systematically try to deny them to me.
That's interesting.
But
Yeah.
that speaks again back to the oppression
Yes.
and the sanctioning of desire. So I said in the beginning, I don't want to talk about the sanctions, you know, how we are taught what to desire. What did you say? Girls are supposed to you know, desire certain things in certain way, or, you know, any gender, for what it matters, or any class or any race, you know, should conform to certain norms. Because at the end, you know, it's not only women's bodies, it's like objects that we surround, that we suffocated under. And art is commodified as well. Art is considered, you know, object-based practice. Objects are, you know, are, as I said, suffocating. Not like, unfortunately, I don't have anything against objects being made, but you know how they are circulating. You have to have objects.
I'm curious about. I don't feel like you haven't talked enough about how your whole system works. I mean, your work is so enigmatic and so ineffable. I'm really fascinated. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Just like I have the process that I like keep repeating, like catching the events that are transients by itself. So there could be like a smoke that I'm trying to sort of paint it, and I gather the layers together. So when they're gathered together, the viewer is also put it in the position where they cannot actually see everything. So there's all of this connection and the little games between the work and the viewer, like one is catching the other one.
So there must be some desire of wanting to get something from this work when someone's looking at it. Like, I think you must be stimulating, I haven't seen your work in person, but our desire to sort of figure it out, or you know, sort of this process of discovery, like what's going on here?
Yeah, it's just like the one look that you see the painting and that's what it is. So my work is all of escaping that.